Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. This is day 8 of Oracle SQL training. So in previous session we learned about SQL functions where we discussed numeric functions and corrected functions and we were remaining for date functions. So in this session we will specifically learn about date functions and how we can use the date function in SQLs. All these things we are going to learn. Just for recap, if you remember, we discussed about that dual table that which is going to provide as a temporary column. Using that table column, we can display our values at runtime, and it's obvious generally we are using it for calculation purpose. So here we done that 1 plus 1 or something like that. Even we saw that pseudo columns and also we learn about what all pseudo columns are there in SQL, just like sysdate, user ID, current date, timestamp, and all. And after that we went through that SQL functions where we learn number functions, and then we learn about the character functions available in SQL. And we find one common pattern for all these functions, that whatever functions we are going to use, they that are going to return only one values, that is single values. So same as we have date function, it is also going to return your single values. So we have few date functions which we will cover in this session. So let's move to first function, which is toDate function. So as per this screen, you are able to see that date function is responsible for converting string values into date data type. So when we are saying the date data type, sometimes we have a column as date, and that value we want to insert is not a date value. It's because when we are passing any value in single quote, that's considered as an character values or a string values. That's why at the time we have to convert that specific string value into date data type format, so that system can understand that this is the date values and matching with the date data type. So that's why we need two date functions which will convert our string values into date. So let's see an example for that. So suppose here we have one, suppose let I'm going to give display some values. So in SQL, for displaying any values we require select statement, and in select whatever things you will write, it can be column name, it can be hard coded value, it will show you in the result. So I will just want to display the date. So date is something like 01/01/2025. So in single quotes I given, and then it will be considered as a string values or character values. So let me provide the column name as date. So here you can see we cannot use this date column here, date name here, because date, this dat is a keywords available in SQL which define the date data type. So we cannot use any keywords in naming. So if we will use here, it will give an error. So let me show you that error. And from where we want to display this value, so this value is not coming from any of the table. So that's why for displaying we will use dual table. So I will use from dual, and once I will execute, I will get an error. So why we are getting an error? Because they are saying that here you can see the error message is from keyword not found where expected. It means that they are saying that these keywords, that from keywords, whatever SQL engine find that one, this is not at correct place. So why this is not at correct place? Because whenever this from keyword will come, it will come after the column name only. So here this is the value, but we don't have the column name. This is the keyword, right? So compiler will not understand this is a column name. This will compiler will consider as a date, and obviously we cannot use date from after the date. That's the error. So here we have to change the value as user date, something like that. So now user date is not a keyword, so we can give column name as user date. And when we will execute this query, so you can see the result is column name is user date. So this is just for temporary column when we are using for dual, and the value is store 01/01/225. Now this is our character values or a string values. So we have to convert this value into date format. So what is current date format? So you can see that we are already aware about that sysdate. Sysdate is a keyword which our functions which is returning you the current date. So if I will execute here, you can see it's returning the date sysdate, and date is 2 October 2024. And that's why if you want your data, if you want your date should be displayed in date format, so you have to go for toDate function. So let me go to toDate. So I will use 2_date, and this is the sign of function, that is a bracket open and close, and between this we have to provide values. So we have this toDate function accept two values. The first value is your string values. So let me give this example. This is for string values, and second value will be, our second parameters will be in which format this value is there. So we easily identify this is our day, month, and year. So here we have to provide the same. So it will be in single quotes. Date is denoted by DD in SQL. So DD is for date. We have two character, two DD, because it's in two date format, two character format, right? And this is month. So for month, I will use MM. It's a standard format, for month, and year, right? So this year having four characters, so I will use y and single quote sign. So here toDate function having two parameters. One parameter is the value, which value we receive, and second one is the format of these values, so that it can, the compiler or SQL engine can consider or understand that this string value is in this date format. So if I will execute this one, this will be converted into date. So you can see SYSDATE, this column was having our standard date, whatever displaying in SQL Developer, and now when we converted this value into date, for date, it's displaying data like that. You can see 2OCT, that is October, and here it's converted 01 as a month, that JAN. So that's the use of date to date. Even if you will see, let me change the format. So suppose user given that values as 29. 29 is the so for example, here user given as 12. 12 is the month, and 12 is the month, and 28 is the date, and 2025, for example, user given this value, right? So if I will execute this code, it will throw an error, because the first two character, it is considered as a day, right? So here you can see this day will be fine, that day can be 12, right? But here if you will see that the next two character is month, and if you will check that month 28, it's not possible, right? So it will throw an error. So if I will execute, you will be able to see that error. You can see not a valid month, because this is the valid, right? So as we know that 12 December, 28th December 2025. But how compiler will know? To tell them, the compiler, that first two is date, this first two call the character is month, next two character is date, we have to write the value in the such way. So here this is month, so I will use here, and this 28 is the date, so I will use DD here, and then this is year, so I will use year. So now if I will execute, this will be converted into same format, you can see. So now this way compiler understand easily that okay, this value is stored here like that. So same way. So why we are providing here values? So the, or maybe it can be possible that this values is here we provided hard coded value just for testing purpose or learning of this toDate function. In your real example, it can be coming from anywhere, coming from source or coming from your database columns and all. So there is another example of toDate function. So let me copy this one again, same. And here, for example, the first column is year, so YYY. Second one is month, and last is DD. So sorry. So let me provide here 25, and month is 12, and date is 28. Now, if I will execute again, it will throw an error. So why it will throw an error? Because we tell this SQL engine that convert this value into date, and we provided the structure. This is the structure which we provided values. This structure is not related to result, right? This structure is related to the value we provided. So if we will execute, compiler will try to find first two character as a month. So if we will again, if we will go and we will check the first two character, it will throw an error, because 20 cannot be month. And after that, it's expecting hyphen. Hyphen is not there. So if I will execute, it will again get an error. You can see not a valid month. So that we have to write the correct format. So the correct format is first four is Y year. Next two is month, and then next two is day. So I will use hyphen day. So now if I will execute, it will give us result. So that's all about toDate function. Now we have toChar function. Next is toChar function. The toChar function is responsible for converting string values into desired format. For example, this is our date. So sorry, the date format into desired format, not a string. So for example, SYSDATE here, right? So let me comment all this. Here we have SysDate, right? System date. And now we want to display the system date value in different format. Different format, like we want to display the first year, then month, and then day. That's why we have toChar function, that to underscore char. Tochar will accept first parameters as a date value. So SYSDATE is our date, and next parameter it will accept that in which format you want data. This is that the format which we given data, and this here next will be the format in which we want to get the data, right, from toChar function. So here we want that the first column, so four columns should be y, mm, and dd. If I will execute, it will return data in this way. You can see SysDate. When we execute SysDate, it's given data as 2 October 2024. But when we use toChar with SysDate and provided the format, so it's returned the data in that format, which format we ask, right? So we ask that first four column with character will be year. So they given that 2024, 10th of October, 2nd of October. So same way, if we want to get data, we want to get data in mm, dd, y. I will execute, it will give data only that one. So this 10 is a month, 2 is day, and last is year. So this is the use of toChar function. So toChar function accept two parameters. The first parameter is date type parameters, and it should be date values, and another will be the format, in which format you want to retrieve the data. So that's all about that toChar function. Next, we have that same toChar function, but this time we given the date and we want to get only month from this function, this date. So we given toChar that this is date and give me only month. So we given it will return us the month. So same way, if we will use toChar and instead of if we will give dd, it will return date. And same if we will use y, it will return as year. You can see date, month, and year. And instead of we have another format of this value is mon. Mon is month, and when we will use mon, it will give data like this one only, oct, like that. Here you can see oct. So this is another features of toChar, having the parameters. Now we have done with this toChar. Now next we have add month. So this add month function is responsible for adding a additional month in your date, whatever date you will provide. For example, you can see here, this is our sysdate, and the using that sysdate, right? So what is our current date? You can see the current month is obviously October, right? So here, if I will use add month and will provide sysdate here, and we will provide 2. So it means that we are asking add month function to add 2 month in the current date. So once this will be added 2 month, it will be 2 December. So let me execute. And here we are getting error, add month invalid identifier. Add, what is add months? Okay, sorry. So here we forget to ask. So where we didn't provide a correct value, so SQL engine consider as an invalid, right? And then it's generated error. So you can see when we used add month function by providing the date, and in which date how many months we want to add, we want to add 2 months, so it's given that 2 December. So same way we can pass -2, it will return 2 month back. It will subtract 2 months from the current date. You can see. So it's 2 August. Same way we can remove 10 days. So 10 months. So it will be 2 December 2023. 10th month back from the current date. So this, then why here? That's the reason we are using add month to add the months in our date. The whatever date we have, it can be the current date, it can be that any other date coming from database or anything, right? For example, here you can see. So let me give another example. And we want to add month in 01/01/2025 or 24. So we want to add 3 months in this date, right? So when I will execute, it will throw an error. So why it's throwing an error? Because add month is expecting date kind of values. But here we provided what kind of values? We provided values as a string, single quotes define that string. So that's why it's getting error and saying that this is not a valid month. It's true, it's not a month, it's a string values. So now we have to convert this value into month. To converting any string value into month or any string value into date, we have toDate function, right? So now here we have to use toDate. So we will use to underscore date. This is the value to which we have to convert into the date. So now this is first parameter, comma. The second parameters will be in which format this value is there. So this value is there in dt, y, and it's close. So here you can see the first bracket open and close is for this one, is for this, and the second comma is for this complete values, right? This ending for the second add month, right? So now let me execute. So this time it will not throw an error. It will add a month in this January. So 1 January added by 3, it's 1 April. So that's way also we can use. So we can use one function inside another function. That's possible, it is there. Now we have another function. We have last day. So when we will pass last day as any of the date, so it will return last day of that specific month. So here we have last underscore date, and suppose we want to get last date of this month only, right? So what will be the last date of this month? So last date, what is that one? Last day, sorry, it's last day. So what is the last day in this month? So last day of in this month is 31st Jan 2024. Let me comment all this. So last day in 1 January 2024 month is 31st Jan. If instead of that one, if I will pass 2, so in 2024, what is the last date? That is 29 February. Same we can verify here. If you will go, you can see February month. So 29. So the same way we can get, for example, if we want to get the last month of February 2023, it will return that 28 was the last day of February 2023. So this function will accept date kind of values and it will return the last day of that value. So for example, if you want to see the last date of this month, so last day of this month, and this month is will come from SYSDATE, right? SYSDATE will return our current date. So you can see 31st October is the last day of this month. So this is the benefits of using last day function in SQL. Now we have extract. So this extract function is responsible for extracting the data from day, month, and year from the date. So this is our current date, and we want extract month from. This is the format of writing this one, right? So here syntax you can see select extract year from sysdate as, yeah. So extract month 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 from, let me check the syntax, from sysdate. So now if I will execute, what it will do, it will give me the month from the current month name from the current date. So here let me execute. So you can see 10th is our month from this current date. So if I will give you current date 2, so you will be able to see the 2 October and 10 is the month, right? So same way we can use to extract the day from this sysdate. So I will use extract day from sysdates. It will return 2. Second is the date for today. So same way we have next, we can use year from sysdate. So it will return 2024. So all these functions you will use when you have to do validations. You have to extract few things from your date. So all these functions are related to date only. So this is all about date functions. We already covered that character functions. We covered that number functions, all these things, and also we get to know all these things. So again, if any of you having any doubts and want to ask anything, stage is open for you. You can unmute yourself and you can ask your queries, whatever you have.